If battling the Viet Cong on their native territory wasn't risky enough, consider crawling through a series of extremely tight and small subterranean tunnels to kill or capture them. It's a true story of a deadly job in which American, Australian, New Zealand, and South Vietnamese soldiers performed underground search and destroy missions during the Vietnam War. You might have heard of tunnel rats already, but you haven't listened to the true story of this deadly mission, in which hundreds of soldiers lost their lives while fighting for their country. Stay with us till the very end to learn about some secret facts about the tunnel rat job. One of the most dangerous barriers for a soldier during the Vietnam War was faced by troops known as tunnel rats. These unsung Vietnam War heroes were American, Australian, and New Zealand troops, trained as combat engineers, who crawled into the confined Viet Cong underground to undertake risky secret search and destroy operations. The tunnel rats delicately poked for possibly armed mines to disarm them, hoping to live with both legs intact. History. Vietnamese militants seeking to defy French colonial authority. The first Viet Cong tunnels were excavated shortly after World War II. However, when the United States came and launched an effective campaign of bombings, the tunnel digging skyrocketed, making subterranean tunnels a considerably safer mode of passage. New facilities were also provided as the tunnel network grew in size. There were relocated kitchens, residential quarters, and even weapon manufacturers and hospitals. In 1967, when the Vietnam War broke out, the Viet Cong had constructed more than 100 kilometers of tunnels, which they used to launch devastating ambushes on American and South Vietnamese soldiers before dispersing. So many spider holes were strategically placed and well hidden, making them practically impossible to discover from the outside. The 25th Infantry Division called them tunnel runners, and the Australian Army labeled them ferrets. But the word tunnel rat quickly gained their official acknowledged moniker. The U.S. Army quickly understood that attempting to demolish the tunnels was a short-sighted approach that would fail. Furthermore, this was a setback since the underground networks may have provided valuable data on the VC in the form of blueprints and papers. Captain Herbert Thornton, a Southerner from the 1st Infantry Division, established the first tunnel crew. Thornton's ideal candidate for his tunnel squad had to be a one-of-a-kind person. He needed a calm demeanor, a curious mind, a lot of common sense, and needed to know what to touch and what not to touch, and had to be unusually fearless. Traps and creepy crawls. For a great deal of the time, the men's size in the infantry battalion was a significant factor. Of course, the tunnels were built with the local Vietnamese population's needs in mind when they were built. To deal with the smaller physique of the Vietnamese men on average, tunnel rat troops were forced to be the smallest, skinniest, and most limber soldiers in the army, reaching no more than 1.58 meters. Thornton's men were all volunteers, most of whom were diminutive guys of modest frame who could easily fit through the tight trap doors and crawl through the narrow passages. It was a high-stress, nerve-wracking profession that tested the rats' mental fortitude, crawling through small, pitch-black tunnels for hours at a time, hunting for a highly armed foe who, if he got the jump on you, would not hesitate to murder you. Under pressure, a man's nerves would sometimes snap, and he'd be hauled screaming and wailing out of the tunnel. He would never be permitted to go into a tunnel again after this. If descending down into a tunnel was risky, getting back up was just as deadly. For example, when a rat emerged from a tunnel, he would often whistle Dixie to let the soldiers on the surface know he was on their side. Otherwise, a little man stripped to the waist and coated in mud may easily be mistaken for a VC and shot by his own side. The majority of the time, men explored these tunnels in groups of two. One soldier would crawl around 5 meters behind the other to reduce the likelihood of death or injury if their commander detonated a trap or mine on the battlefield. Soldiers were able to assist in the recovery of any injured or deceased colleagues due to this. This was used by the adversary to their advantage. According to a Viet Cong survivor who spoke to the Associated Press in 1977, the Americans spent so much time hauling their dead back that it allowed them time to regroup and plan for the next phase of the war. It was not unusual for tunnel openings to be mined or camouflaged by concealed shooting positions. Sometimes an entry would descend into a punji stake hole, which would be guarded by 2 riflemen, one on each side of the entrance. Thus, in addition to being garroted or having his neck slit as he came up through the connecting trap door, the unwary tunnel rat could also be killed by being trapped in the trap door itself. In addition to the booby traps, the tunnels had several additional unpleasant shocks. A slew of creatures living alongside the VC, all of which had taken up residence in the tunnel's dim confines to survive. At night, bats would roost in the tunnels, which were also used as a roosting place during the day. Bats would be startled out of their sleep if they saw a tunnel rat moving down a narrow tunnel, leading them to fly straight for him and get entangled in his hair before rushing and crawling all over him. Snakes were also discovered in the underground passages. The bamboo viper and the crate are 2 of the most dangerous snakes on the planet. Sometimes the VC would purposefully entangle a snake in a tunnel to utilize it as a natural booby trap. It was also possible to utilize scorpions to set off explosives, and the VC would bring crates of them into the tunnels. If a tripwire was installed in the box, the tunnel rat would trip the wire, and the scorpions would fall on him, hurting his body in the process. As a result of being stripped to their underwear and carefully crawling around on their bellies, the rats were exposed to bites from fire ants that lived in the labyrinths under the surface. Finally, real rats and spiders such as the giant crab spider were among the dangers found in the tunnels. Special tools. Bunker bomb. These were created from an ammunition can with a hole bored at one end. The primary body of a phosphorus grenade was then inserted into the container after it was unscrewed. After straightening the grenade lever, the fuse is fed through the drilled hole and fitted back onto the body. Finally, napalm or thickened gasoline is poured into the container. Pistols. The tunnel rats carried various pistols, the .38 Smith & Wesson being a favorite. Other tunnel rats got their own personal weaponry to meet their own requirements. Master Sergeant Flo Rivera was one of them, and she got and used a 9mm German Luger. Colt 45 was the one weapon on which everyone agreed. Unfortunately, it was too large, bulky with a silencer, and loud when shot underground without a suppressor, thus making it hard for the opponent to hear you. Flashlight. The flashlight was regular army gear, and each rat had one. These were carried in such a manner that they did not become a well-lighted target. If the flashlight's bulb burned out, it had to be replaced. This was rehearsed to be done swiftly and in complete darkness, lying prone, crouching, or kneeling down. The Tunnel Exploration Kit. For the creation of unique tunnel exploration kits due to the specialized nature of tunnel warfare, the expedited non-standard urgent requirements for equipment program was given precedence over the other programs. Accordingly, 6 kits were ordered by USARV on the 29th of April 1966, and they were subsequently delivered to Active, Army Concept Team in Vietnam, on the 7th of August, the same month. Active then dispersed the 6 kits, 2 of which were sent to the 1st Infantry Division in Dian, and the other 2 were sent to the 25th Infantry Division in Chu Chui. From the remaining kits, 1 was sent to the 1st Cavalry in An Ke, while the last remaining kit was assigned to the 173rd Airborne Battalion at Bien Hoa. Each kit, which cost $728, included a .38 caliber handgun outfitted with a silencer, spotlight sighting system, and other accessories. All of this was carried on a conventional gun belt in a holster constructed explicitly for it. On the wearer's head was a baseball cap with a miner's light affixed on it, controllable by a bite switch that was actuated with the mouth. A bone conduction microphone communication device, coupled to a tiny earpiece, could be found at the rear of the cap's brim. The lamp's power supply and a communication wire spool were likewise hung from the gun belt, but they were placed on the wearer's back rather than on his hip. Testing of the exploration kit in Vietnam quickly showed the gear's flaws and shortcomings. The silenced .38 caliber pistol was unpopular due to its length when equipped with the suppressor, and the fact that it lacked balance and was uncomfortable to wield. In addition, it was discovered that the special targeting light was excessive, in light of the close quarters and limited ranges that the tunnel rats were forced to operate in. Another failure was the massive gun holster, which was much too large and awkward to be utilized in the cramped confines of the tunnel. Not much better was the performance of the head-mounted miner's light. This was made ineffective by the baseball cap's visor, which could also be shortened out by switch faults, leaving it useless altogether. Furthermore, the light had a tendency to fall down and cover the wearer's vision. The earpiece portion of the communication system was also problematic since it consistently slipped out of the wearer's ear canal. Because of their patch, which included the ridiculous Latin motto, non gratum anus rodent, not worthy of a rat's ass, the tunnel rats were among the bravest soldiers in Vietnam, doing a task that few others would or could perform. Well, that's all for today's video. If you're visiting this channel for the first time, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more interesting videos we have in store for you.